Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bowling with the Fef on a Wednesday evening for a change. You've got the Fef here, Andrew Pfeffer, with a unique platform to share your unique bowling story. And we always do it live on the YouTube channel. If you would like to be the first to know when we start our live stream or post new videos, be sure and subscribe. Hit that little notification bell and give the video you're watching a like if you appreciate the content or are a bowler. If you want to share your unique bowling story, we're always looking for guests. Just go to bit.ly/bowlingwiththefef. We would love to hear your bowling story and have you as part of the program. Kind of a strange day in America for sure, but some good news out of Minnesota today, where the governor announced that bowling centers can open at 25% capacity, no more than 150 people inside a venue at once. So they're slowly getting back into it in a spot where bowling can come back at least. So we've got that. And I'm sure a lot of folks who own and run bowling centers in Minnesota are, I would hope, somewhat excited that bowling is back. It may not be to the level that everybody prefers, but we're on the right track here as far as getting people back into bowling. And we do have a guest tonight who is from Minnesota, and we'll ask his thoughts on the fact that bowling is coming back, which is really exciting in and of itself. Let's get to the first frame where, we're talking about tournaments today, kind of like the Chippewa Valley match games that took place locally this past weekend. Are they tough enough in the qualifying rounds, especially if you're like me, not all that accurate, can't make all that many spares. But typically, cutting from a field of near 100 down to just 24 or so for a Sunday match play on a demanding pattern usually weeds out the contenders, from the pretenders. But head-to-head match play, and there's plenty of that at the match games, is an absolutely different animal. So we want to know, of all the bowlers that you've had to face head-to-head, who is the toughest player that you've had to face? If you have an answer, want to chime in, leave a comment in the chat. If you're watching this on replay, put it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We will certainly get back to you and let us know who is the toughest player you've ever bowled against. So in our beer frame today, as I was saying, we do have a bowler from Minnesota. We're welcoming on Austin Jahnke from Vadnais Heights, Minnesota. Austin, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure, of course, to be a part of this and have the opportunity. So,
yeah. Well, we're very happy to have you here. Austin is in Minnesota, but has bowled many tournaments in state and out. So I got to tell you, I got to ask you right away, who's the toughest bowler that you've ever bowled against and why?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I mean, I'd probably say the toughest bowler I've ever had to face would be Matt McNeil. I mean, everybody knows him, nationally, internationally. I mean, I've only had the opportunity to face him head to head a couple times at some local sweepers that we had back in the early 2000s or 2010s actually, and I mean, the guy just doesn't miss. And that's for a player like me, I like to use my area. I like to use my rev rate, my speed, and I mean, this guy just throws darts all day. So
Yeah.
it really comes down to a carry competition with him.
Sure. And like you said, a lot of people nationally are familiar with Matt. He's been on a few PBA shows and, of course, well known in the Twin Cities metro and surrounding areas. Another lefty, and a good one at that. Is there a different mindset that you have between maybe the qualifying rounds of a tournament that you're in and the match play where you're head-to-head with one particular bowler on one pair?
That's a really good question. I would say, it really depends on what the format of the tournament is. I mean, if the pins carry over, you're talking about, trying to shoot lights out all day long. Where some tournaments like the match games, you just want to squeak into the top 24 and then, everything kind of resets. So if you're not throwing that great, I mean, it doesn't really matter. unless you can, fix things the next day. However, when you're in a tournament, I mean, I bowled a tournament in Menominee here 2-3 weeks ago. I'm not really sure, but pins carried over. So, I mean, literally every frame mattered. And there was a guy, I think it was Joe Mason Jr. I think that's what his name was, from South Dakota.
Oh, Tom Mason Jr.
Tom Mason. Thank you very much. I mean, he shot 856 game 4. So, well, game 4, 5, and 6. So it was 4-game qualifying block, and then he had 2 more games to make the top 4. And I mean, this guy just it was unbelievable. I mean, I just squeaked in, and I was second or third, and he goes an extra, I mean, however many pins it was. I mean, 856, that was unbelievable. And then you see him next weekend, he shoots 869. I mean, so I mean, it really depends on the format of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, I know well. He's a guy who used to live in this area of Wisconsin, in western Wisconsin, shot leagues and tournaments around here, now in South Dakota, and really tearing it up lately. Like you said, the great performance in Menominee, 869 back in his home in South Dakota. So, major props to him and what he's doing on the lanes, because I'll tell you what, I'm not matching that anytime soon. When you're in a head-to-head match, tell me what it's like. Are you talking to the person? Is there any kind of a mental chess game there, or are you just focused on what you're doing, and that that's more of an opponent than the person you're bowling against?
Personally, I actually, if I'm the higher seed, or if I have a choice of what who goes first, the PBA style and stuff like that, I like to go second, because my mentality of it is, okay, if I can stack 2 frames on you, I mean, you're going to be looking at the scoreboard the whole time, and if I'm ahead of you, if I have, a double or a triple or whatever, however many strikes I have in a row, I feel like it's a mental advantage, and it puts a little stress on the opponent. Be like, okay, well, I know I need to have a strike. And I love bowling head to head. I do a lot of pop bowling in the area here and there, and that's one of the things I really like to do. I mean, bowling regular competitions is great, but I mean, the head to head is really kind of where you can separate the bowlers. I mean, who can handle the pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. We said at the beginning of the program, of course, bowling coming back next week in Minnesota. That's got to be exciting, in a general sense. Tell me about how you're feeling about that, about how they're kind of slowly getting, a percentage of people back in the centers and doing that starting this next Monday.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited. I mean, I just got the notification earlier this afternoon that we're going to be starting up next Monday at Texatonka, and then hopefully that'll follow on Flaherty's as well for Fridays. I mean, I don't bowl, a ton of leagues weekly, but with the practice and everything else like that, I'm pretty excited not having to travel out of state every weekend, because that's what I've been doing. And I mean, it's nice to win, but when you don't win, I mean, those bills stack up pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into your bowling story. Many people around here and in Minnesota have seen you on the lanes. We know this version of Austin, the Powers version, the one with the speed and the rev rates, who knows exactly what he's doing and is finishing well in a lot of tournaments. But how did it all start for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I started bowling probably when I was 11. I think that was the first time I went bowling, and I kind of started to get the itch. I went to a birthday party in the local area. I can even remember the song that was playing when we first started throwing. I mean, it was One More Time by Daft Punk. And it was just a joyous moment. And when you hear the ball hit the pins, I mean, I've played a lot of sports. I mean, I played softball, I played soccer, karate, taekwondo, bowling, football. I mean, all the different sports that a guy probably does. And there was just something unique kind of about bowling that just really intrigued me, and there's so many different factors of it. I mean, I think it was it might have been Mo Pinnell that said, bowling is probably one of the hardest sports because there's only, you have bowling and you have golf that have, three different attributes. I mean, you have the lanes, you have the person, and then you have the ball, or just like golf, you have the course, you have the club, and then you have the golfer. I mean, it doesn't happen in a lot of sports.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
as much as I love golf too, I kind of like bowling because it's in that controlled indoor environment,
well, it helps when you're up north, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because half the year, you still get to do it. After you went to that party, you experienced bowling for the first time, there must have been something building up there that got you into maybe a junior league or high school or some kind of competitive situation. How did that, end up going for you?
Well, yeah, to be honest, I wasn't really good at all those other sports, and I had some shelves in my room as a kid, and I never had any trophies, so I always kind of hopped around to different sports because I mean everybody wants to have first place or be recognized for something, and when I came across bowling and I realized, well, I'm actually kind of decent at this and I'm having fun. I just kind of stuck with it after that. And, the first couple years when I joined the high school league, I was doing football and I was bowling. So it was kind of a lot of pressure because, you have, different practices on different days. And then you have the football games on Friday nights when you have bowling on Thursday. And then you kind of had to decide, which one are you going to do? So I made the jump, and that's kind of how it really happened. It was like, well, yeah. When I was younger, football in White Bear Lake was, I don't want to say it was a little bit political, but I mean, if you didn't do the summer camps and stuff like that, you weren't really starting. Just from what I was realizing, and so I just decided, let's try bowling. Let's see what happens, and so far I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah. You mentioned high school, and I also have some history in the Twin Cities. I went to Robbinsdale Armstrong.
Okay.
We had a team, Brent Prentice, Dan Goldstein. They were on our freshman year team, Pat Humphrey. I don't know if you know those guys, but
I know Brent pretty well.
Sure. We had a good team. But the other thing was, the high school league was kind of the first time that I had experienced the Baker system. I had always bowled in juniors, and it was just me bowling my individual game. When we started high school, it was all Baker system competition. Was it similar for you?
Yeah, no, and that's the interesting thing. You talk to people that aren't from Minnesota, they're doing singles, they're doing team, they're doing doubles, and then they're rarely doing Baker. And it's the same thing. You have, just Baker up here in Minnesota, and it's all based off of your fill percentage and your strike percentage. If you're going to get an award at the end of the year, which I find pretty fascinating, how it's not one, one system throughout the United States.
Yeah. It looks like your first job was at White Bear Bowl. Was it pretty important to you to work at a bowling center back then?
Yeah, it really was. I started there when I was 15 years old. I remember my dad, it was kind of before my birthday, so my father was always driving me back and forth, to work. And that's actually kind of how I got my first car, because it's like, I'm tired of you. I'm not going to be leaving work early so you can go to work. I mean, I make more money than you do anyway. So I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah. White Bear Bowl has a special place in my heart because that's the first venue that I bowled Minnesota Junior Bowlers Tour event at. This was back in 1993-ish. I remember Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style had just come out. That's how old I am. But I remember, doing really well out of the gate and missing a 9-pin in the 10th frame of the final game to miscut by like 2 or whatever.
Right.
You also were in the Minnesota Junior Bowlers Tour. How'd you get involved in that?
Yeah, well, I mean, after doing kind of the local tournaments around, like the Pepsi and the Papa and Mama Vitale tournaments, I started taking it a little bit more seriously. everybody's saying, well, hey, try and bully MJBT, see how you do. Because I think when I first joined, you had, Eric Vermilia was still in, Eric Schott was still there, Amanda Vermilia Burgoyne, now, and of course Matt McNeil and a lot of other good players. So kind of seeing where you stack up, it was pretty interesting. If I remember correctly, my first tournament was at Maple Lanes.
Oh,
and pretty interesting. The Oiler broke that day, and so they put out. I swear it had to have been 40, 50 mils, oiled the whole lane. Because when you threw the ball, you could see the oil flinging up off, as it was revving down the lane.
which
it
is
was
always
just
a good sign, right?
and of course, like, I'm not that experienced, and I see this, and it's like, what the heck is going on? So, competitive bowling kind of scared me for a little while there. Yeah, I think I was minus like 700 for 9 games. It was so bad.
Yeah. But those are tournaments where you learn as you go, and you kind of figure out whether it's making spares or making better shots at strikes. When it's all said and done, you come out of the MJBT with almost $2,900 in scholarship earnings, 79th all time. I was not 79th all time. So you got to tell me, what was it that worked well for you in those tournaments after you kind of got going there?
Yeah, a lot of practice. Working at White Bear Lanes, and then I also worked at. I worked at a lot of bowling alleys around here. Sunray, and then I did a lot of Dick Richter clinics when they used to be over at Airport Bowl. So even what's her name, pro bowler, Kelly Kulik. Yeah. She was actually one of the coaches at that time, and Terry Howe as well. And just learning a lot about lane play, and then learning a lot about my equipment. The driller that I used to go to back then when I was younger was Kenny Hollitz. He was out of White Bear, and just really kind of refining what I was learning. Oh, and then also, Nick Parr, talking to a lot of people in the area on what is kind of happening on the lanes. What do I need to do in certain situations? I feel like we're pretty blessed up here in Minnesota. I know blessed is a pretty common word nowadays, but there's so many people that are really good, in the area. And so you have just a wealth of knowledge that you can kind of just, take a little advice here, take a little advice there, and kind of mold it into what you have. And, with all of that and putting in the hard work, that's kind of how that all came to be. And I think I walked away with for sure one title, maybe 2 titles, but, making cuts and just kind of handling the 1-to-1, because, it was 9 games, and then if the top 8 made it, it was round robin after that, if I remember correctly, and then match, and then step ladder final set after the round robin, if I'm correct. But great format, learning how to deal with, bowling for extended periods of time. You walk in, you sign in 8 o'clock, you start bowling at 9 o'clock, and you're not walking out of the center, 5, 6 o'clock if you're doing well. It's definitely a drain on the body, and you're learning how to deal with the fatigue and how to, handle that emotionally and physically is a huge aspect.
Sure. Was Darren running the tournaments when you bowled, or at that point?
It was Chris.
It was Chris. Okay.
It was Chris, and he was a great guy. When I knew him, I know he passed away several years ago, but he would just get on people for not having the badge or the the logo badge for the MJBT on, not having a belt on. He was really strict, so it kind of molded us into how to be a professional, or how to be represent yourself the proper way.
Sure. Chris was my high school coach. He was running
Really?
the MJBT when I was in it. Like you said, great guy, certainly gruff, and he knew, he knew what he wanted you to do and what he wanted you to be and dress like. But there was always a reason behind it, because he knew what needed to be instilled in us to get into those upper levels of bowling, and it all made sense after a while, which I always thought was pretty neat. Let's go to March 2010. Looks like your first 300 game was that month. Where'd you shoot it, and what do you remember about it?
March 2010. So that must have been okay. Yeah, no. So that was pins. It was really cool because that center just opened up, and I actually had the first 300 there at the center.
Wow.
Which, well, it was really cool because I was really trying. I think I had 2, 3, or 4 299s before that, and I was just like, God dang, I can't get the last pin. I don't understand what it was. And they were all wrap sevens, which was just aggravating to me the most because my dad would always heckle me in the back. It's like, oh, he left a 7 pin. He's going to miss it. Here we go. And to have that moment was just really exciting. I was throwing a Storm triple X Factor, triple X Factor. And it was just one of my happiest moments in a long time. And that center is still great, still going. And the reason I actually ended up going over there was because of Dean Strike. I think he works for the USBC now over in St. Paul, or St. Paul, Minneapolis. But at that time, he was the bowling manager over at Flaherty's, and when they opened up pins, he moved over there. So he was always a good guy, so I actually started going over that way.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great to have the first 300 in the center.
I think so.
As your first 300. That's awesome.
Right.
So you're making your way through junior competition, through high school league. And after high school, you make the decision to go to Weber International, which is now one of the premier bowling programs in the country. Was it then, and did that factor into your decision to go there?
It was a little bit, and it was then, but it was still very new. I think that the program was only going for 4 or 5 years at that point in time when I went down there. And it was interesting. I got a lot of offers, from different colleges. I know Carthage was one of them, up in Michigan, and a couple other places. But I started looking at it. I was like, okay, if I'm going to go to college, at the time, me being 18 or 17, I was thinking, well, I don't need a job. I'm just going to become a pro bowler. That's the sign. So I just decided to go to the best school. I didn't make the most, I didn't get the most scholarship for going there or anything else like that. But in the long run, I think that it's going to pay off. I got a great education. And at the same point in time, the coaching that I got from, Randy Stoughton, Del Warren, and Joe Slowinski was there at that time. Ruben didn't make it there yet, and then I know there's a couple other coaches there now. But the place was amazing. Yeah. So glad I went there.
Was it tough to get on the team, or was that a deal where they kind of came to you and you knew you had a spot when you got there?
Well, I actually, anybody can go. Anybody can be a part of the team. But at the same point in time, the traveling team, they run a tryout every year, and if you make the traveling team or if you make the developmental team, it just kind of depends. And then I know they run tryouts every major tournament. So that would be like Moline, the Hoosier, Vegas, Nationals. But by that time, basically everybody's picked for Nationals. But for all these different tournaments, you have to bowl for it. I think there's 3 or 4 spots that are reserved for, coach's pick. I think I only ended up traveling, I didn't bowl all 4 years, actually. I got married during that time and things like that. So I think it was about 3 years, 3.5 years, something like that. But I mean, it's pretty stiff competition, especially with the international crowd that go to that school.
Sure. Yeah. So you said 3.5 years. Does that mean you still have eligibility?
I do.
Wow.
Yes, I think technically I have 2 years left.
Holy
So
cow.
I think I'm still kind of mulling over the idea of going back for my master's. I mean, if I went anywhere, I'd go back to Weber. I mean, the bowling program, not sugarcoated or anything. I mean, it's like the military. I mean, you have 2 individual practices. You practice every day. So 2 individual practices every week, right? Then you have you have practice every night. You have 2 personal gym workouts. Then you have the team workout. You have league, and then you have all of the other times that we bowl there. So I mean, it's a great program. You can become a better bowler. I mean, definitely. I mean, I'm a great example. I wasn't that good after I looked through the videos. I wasn't really that good before I came to Weber and taking all that knowledge. But I mean, you really have to love bowling to be able to go there. I mean, it's not like um, any of the smaller colleges, Stout or whatever. I'm just from the stories that I've heard. I mean, basically Weber, probably Robert Morris and Wichita are on the same level as far as talent and how their programs are ran.
Sure.
So, but
I actually shot an email over to Dell, in anticipation of this show, asking
right.
him what he thought of your development there. He never got back to me. But
Okay.
what I want to know is if he was talking with us right now, what do you think he'd say about your time there?
It's pretty interesting. When I first got there, I was probably about the size I am now, a little bit bigger. I think I walked in at 310 pounds. And with Joe Slowinski was the men's head coach at that point in time, and Dell was just the vice president of Kegel. And Joe told me that I had to lose 100 pounds if I ever want to travel. And within that first year, I think I lost about 80. Then I went over the summer, lost another 20, and I came back, and that's when I started traveling my sophomore year. And I actually ended up, I mean, they do awards at the end of the year. I actually got the Constant Learning Award in 2011 or 2012, whatever the first freshman year was. Um, I'd say that he'd be pretty impressed and happy with the knowledge that I've been able to apply to my game that he's, taught us over the years. Actually, I just spoke to him last night because I had issues over at the Chippewa, the match games, and he's always very responsive. He's a great coach, and means, yeah, that's what I would think.
That's got to be an incredible resource. And like you said, back in your time, he was the vice president of Kegel, and that must be, the connection where you get to the training center and things like that by bowling through Weber International. What is that like, and how does, kind of having access to the Kegel Training Center make that experience unique for those bowlers?
I mean, so basically, this is what we were told, and I don't know if it's still the same. But when you graduate, you do 4 years at Weber. You get to have free access to the center for the rest of your life. I could be wrong if it's different. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't actually traveled back down there since it's on the other side of the country. Right. But I mean, just the wealth of knowledge that they have. I mean, you think about it. There's 20. Well, how many gold coaches are there now? There's about 20. I think there's
as good as mine on that one.
I think I think there's 20 gold coaches in the world. I think there was about 15 when I first started. You have 5 in one center. You have Specto. You have all the people that have so much knowledge from around the entire world. And I was just talking to him last night. For example, I was like, okay, well, I felt when I went and bowled the match games and some of the other local tournaments around the weekend, something's going on with my ball reaction. So I sent him some videos from 2015, 2018, 2020. And I was like, what's different? I can't really see it. And I thought I was with my swing. And he's like, well, hey, your ball rotation is, becoming too high. Just do this, drill your ball a different way, put a little bit more, I think it's forward pitch or reverse pitch in your fingers, and that'll solve the problem. I mean, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm taking videos. I'm pretty, I can pinpoint certain things as far as, what's kind of happening in my game or, from one shot to another. But I mean, the way that you can just do that after a couple of videos it's unbelievable. So, I mean, having that access to that type of information, it's incredible. I would recommend anybody to at least go down and do a camp from them.
Okay. Wow. You had some adversity to overcome a few years back. You broke your thumb, injured other parts of your hand. What was that like, and how did you come back from that?
You've done a lot of research on me.
It's good that we're Facebook friends, let me tell you. It was good for me anyway.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. No, so it was my first year, second year at Texatonka. I mean, if anybody hasn't heard of Texatonka, it's probably one of the biggest scoring houses in Minnesota. So, shooting
during my day too.
Right. So shooting there is pretty important. Shooting good there is pretty important. I was on 7 in a row, and it was right when I first got divorced. I started bowling again, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I have 7 in a row, and my outer sleeve actually came out of my ball. So not the inner sleeve, the outer sleeve, because I was throwing an older ball, probably didn't have a lot of glue in it, things like that.
Yeah.
And I balked it, because I started feeling it when I was coming down through my swing. And so I held on to it because I didn't want to ruin my 7 in a row. And so I fractured my thumb and hyperextended my fingers. And I tell you what, I still feel pain today with bowling, so I didn't bowl for a year and a half after that. As far as the recovery goes, when I went and got my MRIs and things like that from the doctors, they said that surgery won't help you. You're just gonna have to wait. First it was they originally told me 8 months, and after 8 months I started bowling again, and I still had some pain, so I actually had to stop. Now the thing about it is, I have pain right around here in my hand after every time I bowl, and it's basically like learning how to bowl again after that. Surprisingly or not, to some people, I don't have as many revs as I used to have.
Okay.
But I was just mentally bowling in my mind, setting up the pins, lining up, playing different angles for the last, within that 8 months, 10, 12 months, however long it was. I think it was about 18 months. So I started bowling regularly again. Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's probably going to be with me, probably for the rest of my life, or at least the rest of my bowling career. I don't know if it's arthritis or what it may be, but I've worked with a couple different pro shops trying to alleviate the pain, and it's unfortunately it's kind of a challenge because I'm still only 27, so
sure,
to have that happen so early in my career, and that's the only injury I've ever had. I mean, yeah.
But yet you bowl in these long format tournaments. Is it better or worse for you? Maybe early in a block or after 8, 9, 10 games?
Early in the block is when I feel it. I stretch every time I go bowling now, which maybe that's just part of getting older, I guess. But
Yes, it is.
But yeah, I stretch, and then those first couple practice balls. I mean, they hurt. But at the same point in time, I'm not going to stop a little bit of pain from doing something that I love. So I mean, if it comes down to it, I'll bowl right-handed. But I mean, everybody knows that lefties are better than righties, so that's not going to happen.
Oh, we do we?
We're privileged over here a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, there are times that I think it kind of goes back and forth sometimes.
Well, definitely on sports shots, you guys have the privilege, not on house shots.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. So at the end of last year, you posted that you received the opportunity to represent Bolify last year. Do you still? What does that involve?
It's a clothing company. I mean, they make great shirts and great products. I mean, I can't complain, especially since they're kind of cheapest on the markets. If you're bowling on a budget and trying to take care of all your needs, I think that they're a great company to kind of work with. I'm no longer with them. It's just for personal reasons, and that's all I really need to say about that. But Tim Warner over here in Minneapolis area, I think he's a national director or sale. Either way, he's pretty high up there. He does a great job, always treated me well, and I mean, I can't say anything less about Bolify.
Fair enough. Let's get to some happier times, like at chatek. Let me pull up this video.
All right.
Let me see if I can share the screen with both of us on it. This is you up in chatek, which is about an hour north of me, making a 7-10 split for a $300 payday. It's tough enough to make a 7-10 split when you don't have $300 on the line. What was that like? Take me through it.
No, it was really exciting because I haven't made a 7-10. I made 2 back-to-back in high school, back-to-back weeks. And then I haven't had anything close to that since. It was pretty exciting because that day I was pulling really bad.
Okay.
And the scorekeeper told me over there, is like, listen, like, you can do this. I've seen you bowl enough. Because I think this is the 3rd year that I've been bowling up there for the 9-pin no tap. And she just gave me the little confidence I had, and I was just like, man, another split. Here we go. I mean, I'm going to score, like 750 in a 9-pin no tap. This is just terrible. But, I just looked at it. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give it a go. What do I need to do? So I just kind of lined up, and I knew that, that lane, I think that's lane 4. Yeah, it's lane 4. The backboards and the sideboards, they always have really good bounce on. I mean, that's the best pair in the house. And so I was thinking, okay, if I just throw it directly and I throw it pretty hard, maybe I'll have a chance. I mean, yeah, that's what everybody thinks. And, 99% of the time you don't make it. But I mean, I was just blown out of my mind that I made it, especially, making the $300. And that wasn't really, in my thought process at the time, but it was definitely nice to get the check at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, 9-pin tournament. I think you cover every lane in the house when you bowl the 4 games. Lots of, different squads at different times of the year. It's, it's definitely a lot of people around here go up for it. I've been up there a couple times. A lot of fun.
Fun. John Law does a great job.
Absolutely. So everybody has, different opinions about what they should and shouldn't be doing during the pandemic. And it looks like you've been bowling pretty regularly. You've been to tournaments like that and the Chippewa match games. Was there a point where you kind of sat there at a fork in the road and said, okay, either I'm going to keep bowling, keep competing, or I'm going to hunker down?
During the first pandemic, I did, or I guess the first lockdown that Minnesota had. I think that was, what was that, January until March, or no, it was March until June. I think that was the first time. I didn't throw for 2 months. You know what I mean? But I was always kind of under the impression, If I can make my own decisions, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, that's always the kind of person that I've been. I'm not going to let something stop me from something that I want to do. And I mean, people can, take that in or out of context, however you want. But I mean, if I'm required to wear a mask, I'll wear a mask. If I'm not required to wear a mask, I won't wear a mask. And I think that it's up to everybody's personal opinion to kind of take care of that on their own, which is, you got to have a brain. That's what life is about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well
said. The Lacrosse Open this year, you had a 5th place finish. Take us through your experience in that tournament. What kind of challenged you? I know there were 2 different patterns on each pair. Was that kind of a challenging thing for you as you made your way through that weekend?
I can't believe I got 5th. I notoriously struggle on long patterns, and I think it's because of my ball speed. Actually, I pretty much know it's because of my ball speed. I mean, normally throwing it anywhere between, upper 18s to, lower 20s, depending on what pattern I'm throwing on. I knew I had a good chance because I was thinking to myself, okay, if half of the game is on a house shot, I know I can whack a house shot. I mean, most places, if there's decent carry. And I just got a ball drilled. I think that tournament was on I think it was on a Saturday. I could be wrong. Maybe it was a Sunday. But I got a ball drilled on Friday because I knew the tournament was coming up. Drilled the supersonic, which, I mean, everybody says it's, super chuggy and it hooks a lot. I was thinking to myself, well, I mean, that's perfect for a long pattern. That's kind of what we're looking for. And so honestly, I never even threw the ball before I went to the tournament. But I threw a high road on the right lane and I threw the supersonic on the left lane. I got really lucky. I know I was bowling with Nick Pate on 1 and 2, and I was struggling with carry and other problems. I was trying to kind of force the ball into the pocket on the left lane. Right lanes I had, on the right lane on the house shot, I had no issues whatsoever. But I actually ended up walking away with 3 Brooklyns to finish out the game. Just to kind of keep my scores going up. I mean, it's a hell of a tournament and it's a lot of fun. But the thing that really kind of, I don't want to say it messed me up, but I wasn't really prepared for is when they did the re-oil when we got into match play. And I think I bowled Tom Hess twice and I got mopped. Yeah. It was terrible. But
there's no shame in losing to him if it's any consolation.
No, I mean he's a great bowler, and I've never met him before, even though he's a local guy. Well, I mean, local in the tri-state area. I mean, just a great guy. I couldn't say enough about him. And me and Nick, I mean, we grew up together, so somewhat. So I mean, bowling with him was kind of nice, and just seeing all the people. I think that was probably one of the biggest tournaments I've bowled in my adult career, and I was just it was kind of really cool. It's like, kind of a litmus test, It's like, well, not too bad around here.
Yeah. Does a big finish like that influence you to, do more tournaments, maybe in more places?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I decided to go down to South Dakota a couple of weeks ago. Traveling up to Wisconsin this weekend. I'm actually going over to Illinois. And then you have Minot after that, and then I'm going to Mandan, however you say it, just east of Minot. So, starting to realize one of the biggest things I have an issue with, it's like, you're a good bowler, but at the same point in time, can you do it on the biggest stages? You know what I mean? So I don't know if it's a confidence issue or if it's just like, I haven't had a ton of experience because I don't come I come from a middle-class family, and I can't bowl every tournament. But now that I'm starting to figure out my financials, being more stable in my job and my career and things like that, being able to kind of pursue what I wanted to do when I was a younger kid is something that I've been kind of chasing after. So, So far this year has worked out very well for me, and uh, getting that experience when I need it in the pressure situations has been extremely helpful.
Sure. Has it been evident to you the growth that you've seen maybe in your mental game? Obviously, your physical game, grows and evolves over the years. But, do you see a difference in how you're able to kind of stay within yourself in tournaments now than maybe you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm pretty cool as a cucumber most of the time. I remember, they used to run a sweeper every Thursday and Friday night in the local area, and I used to have a pitcher of water next to me, and during the match or during the head-to-head competition, I'm pacing back and forth, trying not to watch the other bowler. You know, now it's just kind of like, well, it is what it is. And I can't control what they do, and I'm just gonna kind of go up, throw my shots, and make the best of them. And I think one of the biggest things I learned at Weber actually was when you're standing back in the settee area, in between shots and things like that, that's the classroom. That's kind of the thinking area. What did I do wrong on this shot? What do I need to not? What do I not need to not do, or what do I need to repeat on coming up? And then when you go on to the lanes, that's the sandbox, right? You go play in the sandbox. You don't do any thinking, and that's kind of how I look at it now. And I mean, yeah, if you get tapped or if you miss or something like that, you get a little frustrated. But once you walk off the approach, done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that is probably some of the best advice that I've ever had. And at the same point in time that the younger players coming up need to kind of think about, because say you blow off, like a 10 pin or a 7 pin, and you're flicking up the pins or you're swearing or you're clapping or something like that. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, the bowling community in Minnesota and kind of all around the nation, it's a tight knit community. People are going to see it. People are going to talk about it. And if you're looking to ever get sponsored or things like that, I mean, people have brought up things to me in the past that I don't even remember. And if you make a show, it might not bode well for you.
Yeah. And that's, like you said, great advice and probably something that you're putting words to that a lot of us kind of maybe think and just know exactly how to phrase it. So that's really cool that you think of it that way. You're on this show because of a challenge from Sam Lofquist of Eau Claire. Sam was one of our guests on episode 1. It's on here on the YouTube channel if anybody would like to check it out. But what can you tell me about Sam? Maybe the relationship you guys have, and if you have a great story about him.
Yeah, Sam's a great guy. I actually met him through a mutual friend of ours named Paul. I work weekends over at Split Rocks up in Wyoming, Minnesota, and Paul at the time lived in the area, and he introduced me to Sam. I believe it was at chatek. That's how I've met all of my Wisconsin friends, is at chatek. Um, And Sam is a really great guy. I mean, he's another lefty, So I mean, lefties stick together. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. I don't have a ton of great stories about me and him, but we've bowled trios together. We've bowled chatek together. I know we both didn't do very good in Chippewa Valley match games. I know that. But me and him, we kind of talk back and forth about investing, about bowling, and just about life. I mean, he's a great dude, and it's a pleasure to be able to meet him and be able to be his friend.
Yeah. Moving on to the foundation frame here, you've got a little greeting from another lefty in our town, Dave Whitman. Do you know him?
Yeah, I stayed at his house over the weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
It, Dave's a hell of a guy. I mean, I've known him probably for 2 or 3 years right now. I mean, him and his girlfriend Connie, they treated me and Austin York, which is he's a righty from Tennessee. I met him at the Masters in Minnesota. I mean, we both stayed over there, and yeah, he's just a hell of a guy. I mean, I can't say too much more about him. I mean, every time we go to chatek together, we always do doubles. He actually got he bowled incredible this weekend. When I went to chatek, I didn't bowl very good, but he was following us because you do 2 games on one pair, and then you do 1 game and 1 game. That's kind of how the setup is up there. But he ran the front 11 the first game, and then I think he got 7. I don't know, it wasn't very good. But then the next 2 games, he struggled a little bit. That was a 297 natural, by the way. Okay. So, and then the next 2 games, it was kind of a struggle, since he was following me and Matt Stephenson. The third game or the fourth game, he shot a natural 300, and that's another $300 right there. So I mean, he's kind of, I don't want to say a chatek legend, but that's what he is. He's just a great bowler,
And longtime bowler in Eau Claire. I've known him for many years. I'm a big fan of his. I know he's talked to me about this program before, and really appreciate him watching. And yeah, like you said, a legend in chatek and really all around this area.
Really,
so,
yeah.
On our program, we do a thing called Off the Sheet, where, like Sam did for you, we have our guests challenge someone who you think would make a good guest on a future episode. So, Austin, who do you think would be a great guest for Bowling with the Fef, and who would you like to challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 for you. I mean, I have Del Warren. I think he could probably go a lot deeper into what Weber is. And Kegel as far as the history goes. You have John Janowitz. I mean, he's the laneman over there. He's traveled all around the world, and he's a phenomenal bowler. And at the same point in time, you have Brent Prentice. He owns Cedarville Lanes. I mean, he's very outspoken. He's a great guy, and I think those 3 would probably be 3 hell of a shows. That's for sure.
Absolutely. No, great suggestions. I don't know Del and John, but I'll tell you, I am counting the days until Brent can get on this show. I know we've talked about it before. Okay. We'll work it out one of these days. I'd be glad to have him too. Austin Jahnke, Vadnais Heights, Minnesota. Really glad to have you here. Love the conversation, and continued success to you off and on the lanes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. What a great conversation here on Bowling with the Fef from Austin Jahnke. So our next live stream coming up is on Tuesday, January 12th. So mark your calendar. It's actually another bowler who spent some time at Weber International. So really looking forward to that show. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell if you'd like to find out about when we go live and when we post new videos. And if you'd like to be on the show, again, bit.ly/bowlingwiththefef. That's your link. And let us know about your bowling story. We'd love to hear from you. If you're watching on replay, feel free to make a comment, and we will get back to you from there. Otherwise, be just and fear not, and we'll see you next time.